Hello everyone, my name is Ian, the part-time Dungeon Master. You know, I'm kind of kicking myself now because I'm like, why didn't you do this video to begin with? You're all about Dungeons & Dragons, you've talked about all the different aspects, but you never talked about actually rolling up a character or showing how it's done for the people who have never done it before. So, here we go. I'm going to roll up a cleric. Now, what you need is some dice, character sheet, all 3 pages, which is, your stats and equipment and also on. And also this back page, which is, your appearance, allies and organizations, additional features and traits, treasure, your backstory, and, age, height, weight, and all that fun jazz. And then your spellcasting sheet, which is essentially where you're going to keep track of a lot of your spells and so on. So let's get started. First thing you need, other than your character sheet, is actually the player's handbook. Now, mine has a lot of these little tabs in it because I like trying to keep things as organized as possible. If yours doesn't have these, that's perfectly fine. You can go to Staples or Walmart and pick them up. But thanks to that, open up on the cleric on the first try. So, we have our character page. That's going to control the volume, don't need that. If you hear some music in the background, that's just me, chilling and relaxing. So, you want to be a cleric. So we're going to roll up a level 1 cleric. So up here, we're just going to write Cleric 1. And my name. And let's go just with a dwarf. A dwarf cleric. That's going to be lawful good. Lawful good. That's not a G. Started writing an N, and then I'm just going to write a G instead. So lawful good, level 1. We're going to pick the background while we're in the creation, and the background gives us, sometimes a little bit of money, but mostly our skills and, what we're proficient with. What sounds like a good dwarven name? How about, Grudar. Grudar, the dwarf cleric. So let's get some dice. Now, most Dungeon Masters have essentially gone with the accepted of, this is the generous way of rolling your stats. And, I find it funny that it's become a bit of a meme now. It's like, oh, well, you can roll it this way then, you peasant. Oh my god, this knot just got worse because I'm not paying attention to it and I'm trying to undo it. Come on, you. Oh boy, there we go. Alright, so back when I first started playing D&D, which was about 9 years ago now, I started playing with 1st edition, and the rolling rules were very different from what they are now. As far as what's acceptable, now they say, hey, it's 4d6, drop the low, and some are even like, hey, reroll 1s, because I'm feeling nice. But back when I first started playing, it was 3d6 in order, and you don't get to complain. You got what you got, and I am having trouble finding my d6s. Uh-oh. Dropped one. Oh, that's a 10-sided. Just give me a moment. I probably should have had this prepared beforehand, but I'm not good at that. There's 2 more. Alright. So yeah, those are all the dice we need. So, but yeah, back in the olden days of 1st edition and 2nd edition, it was 3d6 in order. That means you took 3, you rolled it, and that's what you got for your strength. That's a 10. Nowadays, though, most people are like, alright, you roll 4d6 and you drop the lowest. So we're going to do that, since that's a little bit more nice than what most people do these days. Alright, that's a pretty good roll. A 5, a 6, and a 6, and the 3 is the lowest, so we're dropping that. So, we have, for our first score, a 17. We're just going to write it right here, because we're going to assign it in what order we want. So, next we're going to go on, and we want to do this until we've got essentially enough to fill in each one of these. Alright. And since I'm not re-rolling 1s, I'm going to drop 1, and my next score is a 12. think I like these dice. They're mostly rolling pretty well. Next one's a 13. As soon as I say that, that's when they start rolling worse. But hey, you know, a 10 is not too bad. That's just a flat 0 modifier, and you know, it's not a penalty. Oh boy. Well, looks like we got our first bad stat, and that is an 8. So that's going to be a -1 to our modifier for whatever that's for. And for our last one, whew, looks like a 15. Alright, so next we're going to try and determine which stat we want the most. Since we are a cleric, we're mostly going to want wisdom for our spellcasting ability. So we're going to drop the 17 into wisdom. And then we're just going to mark through it right here, so that way, you know, we know that we've used it. I'm not really planning on being in front and in combat, so I guess I'm going to put an 8 in strength. So that's going to be a -1 modifier. And the 17, that's going to be a +3. That's dexterity. We'll put the 10 there, so that's a 0. The constitution, I like being kind of hardy, so I'm just going to put the 15 there, and that's going to be a +2. And then I believe I'll put the 12 in intelligence, that's a +1, and the 13 in charisma, which is also a +1. And there we go, we've got our stat array. Now, here's another thing, we need to go back a little bit and find the dwarf. Because dwarves, each race has their own, how do you say, characteristics. Little parts of them that make them who they are. And where is the dwarf in this book? Because I did not mark it. There's the Dragonborn. Is it before halflings? Yep, it is. Alright, so the dwarf. Short and stout. So let's see, what do dwarves get? Let's see. You increase your constitution score by 2. So that constitution score becomes a 17, which then pushes our bonus up to a +3. One short of a +4. We're a medium size, so we don't have to worry about too anything about it. We have dark vision. I'm just going to put my phone right there, so that way I can get to that back easier. So, under features and traits, which is this section right here, we're going to write dark vision 60 feet. And what that means is that since dwarves are so accustomed to the low light and working in dim and darkness, they can see through normal darkness as if it was bright light. They can't discern color though, but it's more of like shades of gray. We also get Dwarven Resilience, which, you know, gives us advantage save on poison and resistance against poison damage. So, Dwarven Resistance. Now what we're also going to do, to make things a lot easier, is we're going to put page numbers next to them, which is page 20 of the PHB. So that way we can quick reference them if needed. So page 20 of the PHB. PHB standing for the Player's Handbook. We also gain tool proficiency with artisan tools of your choice, smith's tools, brewer's supplies, or mason's tools. We're not really going to focus on that, but I guess just for the heck of it, we'll go with smith's tools for our proficiency. I'm going to put this right here. And whenever we get stone cutting, whenever we make an intelligence or a history check related to the origin of stonework, you are considered proficient in the history skill and add double your proficiency bonus to the check instead of your normal proficiency bonus, which essentially means expertise. So we'll get to that in a bit, but we'll put stone cutting right here. Once again, page 20 of the PHB. And I do apologize for my handwriting. I've always been told that my handwriting looks a lot like a chicken and a dog fought and the chicken won. And that's kind of due to some damage that I've had to my hands when I was younger. So as far as languages, of course, speak Dwarven. That is a B, that is not a D. I apologize. So, Dwarven and Common. And once we choose a background, we'll be able to choose more as to what else we can speak. And that's pretty much all we have. Oh, and walking speed is 25 feet, so 5 squares in most games. And we are not hindered by heavy armor. So if I were to wear full plate armor, my speed would not be reduced because I'm a dwarf. So now going back to the cleric. So next we need to figure out, essentially go down the list of what we want. We are proficient with light armor, medium armor, shields, and simple weapons. We don't get any tool proficiencies from our class. But we do get proficiency to our saving throws of wisdom and charisma. Oh, and because of stone cunning giving us advantage on history checks with stonework and stuff, I would normally put an E next to history for expertise, but since it's situational, we're not going to do that. So next we're going to essentially assign our health or our hit dice. You don't roll your first level hit dice, which for a cleric is a 1d8. So since we're level 1, we take the full 1d8 plus our constitution, which is a 3, so our hit point maximum is currently 11. And our hit dice, we have 1, and it's a 1d8. Our proficiency bonus at level 1 is a +2. And once we get finished choosing our skills, we'll fill the rest of these out. Actually, we can go ahead and fill these out as it's already been determined. For strength, we have a -1 to all checks. For dexterity, we have a 0. Constitution, we have a +3. For intelligence, we have a +1. For wisdom, because we're adding our proficiency bonus now, it is a +5. And for our charisma, it is a +4. I'm sorry, +3. Ian can't math. I apologize. So, now that we got that sorted out, let's go with starting equipment. I want to go with a mace, which is, pretty standard weapon. So we're going to write here, mace. Now our attack bonus, because it is a strength-based weapon and we get our proficiency with it, it is going to be a 1. And it's a 1 because it's a +2 proficiency with a -1 strength modifier, so it's a 1 to hit. And then the damage, if I recall correctly, oh, no, the tab is this side. Oh no, that's too far back. Here we go. For a simple mace, it is 1d6 bludgeoning plus our strength modifier. So it's going to be a 1d6 -1 for damage. And it's bludgeoning. Next we choose scale, leather, or chainmail if proficient. Well, we're not proficient with chainmail, as that requires us to have proficiency in heavy armor. Which we don't. So we're going to go with a scale mail at this, which is going to be a 14 plus our dex modifier. So we're going to write it down here in this scale mail plus 14 AC. And we add our dexterity modifier, which is a 0, so we have an armor class of just 14. There's a lot of flipping back and forth between a book. Next, we choose between a light crossbow and 20 bolts or any simple weapon. We're going to go with that crossbow, so that way we have a bit of ranged as well as something that's not relying on our strength modifier. So we're going to put an L crossbow, and a light crossbow does 1d8 piercing. But since we have no dexterity modifier, we don't have to worry anything about that. So it's just a straight +2 to hit and a 1d8 piercing. There's a range of 80 to 320 feet. Alright. Next we can choose a priest pack or an explorer's pack. Now here's a key thing about packs. They have a lot of stuff in them. Primarily things that you're going to need. If my tabs would work right, that would be great, but whatever. So, we're going to swing on over to the packs. Oops, I think we went a little too far. Priest pack, priest pack, priest pack. Yep, I think we missed something. I apologize. I must have skipped over it. Ah, here we go. Priest pack. It includes... Let's see. It is a backpack, which is always good. Bedroll and a mess kit. See a tinderbox and 10 torches. Two blocks of incense. A censer, which is that swinging smoke thingy that you see sometimes in Catholic churches. Vestments, which is kind of like your priestly robes. 2 days of rations. And a water skin. If you're anything like a cleric that I played in the past, that water skin does not have water in it. It is wine. And we get a shield and a holy symbol. So we get a shield, which is +2 to AC, which is great. So that puts our AC up to 16. And we get a holy symbol, which is also great, because that's how we're going to be casting spells. Now, we go on to the next part, which is briefly on spells for a moment. So we're just going to go ahead and fill this out. So this is the spell page. Well, if you're creating a spellcaster, what did you use? Well, for clerics, you use your wisdom. So for your spellcasting ability, it's just going to be a straight +3 wisdom. WIS. Our spell DC is going to be 8 plus our proficiency modifier, which is 2, so that's 10, plus our wisdom modifier, which is 3, so our spell save DC is 13. And our spell attack bonus, which is just your proficiency plus your wisdom modifier, is going to be a +5. Now, that's pretty much what you need to know at the moment. We'll get back to all this in a bit. Next, we got to choose our domain. What kind of domain is our cleric? There's a number of domains you to choose from, and even more so out there on the internet that are homebrews or have been expanded upon with other books such as Xanathar's Guide, I want to say Unearthed Arcana brought a few, and so on. But we're just simply going to go with the life domain because that seems to be the most proficient when it comes to healing. So we get some fun things at level 1. We gain proficiency with heavy armor. So we could actually go back and choose the chainmail, but we're just going to leave it as is for now. We also starting at first level, we get Disciple of Life, which means our healing spells are more effective. Whenever we cast a first level or higher to restore hit points to a creature, it gains an additional points equal to 2 plus the spell level. So, Disciple of Life will go right here. And then once again, page 60, the Player's Handbook. Alright. So, we've got our level 1 ability of Disciple of Life. We don't get any others until level 2 and then level 6 and so on, but that's purely from our domain. There are some other things that we get at level 1, which is spellcasting, our domain of choice, and then our spells. So like I said, we're going to go back to the spells. So what spells do we get? Well, we get 3 cantrips. So we come back to this page and mark it. We get 3, so we're going to put dots right here for the ones that we have. We also get 2 first level slots. Now here's the wonderful thing about being a cleric. You have access to all your spells. That's pretty much it. You have your entire spell list as a cleric. You simply are preparing whatever spells you want for the beginning of that day. So when you ask yourself, do I have access to this spell? The answer is yes, if you're a cleric. So there's a large list of spells here on page 207 as to every spell in the Player's Handbook. There's other spells out there, once again, brought to you by Unearthed Arcana, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and so on. But we're just going to focus on these ones. Now, as a life domain cleric, I feel like Spare the Dying is very important because we want to try and save as many people as possible. So, Spare the Dying. And then we're going to find the page for that. And when you go past this list of the spells, you get to the more, essentially, the extended list, which is essentially how each spell works. And it gives you, like, you know, what kind of spell it is, what level it is, casting time, the range, the components, the duration, and then the description of the spell. So, and it's in alphabetical order, which makes it great. So we're just going to flip forward a few bits until we get to Spare the Dying, which is right here on page 277. You touch a living creature that has 0 hit points. The creature becomes stable. The spell has no effect on undead or constructs. So that's page 277 for that. So page 277 of the PHB. Our next cantrip, well, let's go with Mending, because Mending has a lot of possibilities. There's been a number of times that I have helped a group, essentially, that I was working with make up a lot of money that they needed simply by essentially running a mending store. Or, yeah, I guess that would be the correct term. I essentially was a wizard and I was sitting there and I was like, hey, you know, I'll mend anything that you need within my ability for a small amount of money. And the great part is it requires 2 lodestones and they are not consumed in the process. So you could just sit there. Sure, it costs a minute to cast, but, you know, hey, if you're running a store. So this spell repairs a single break or tear in an object you touch, such a broken chain link, 2 halves of a broken key, a torn cloak, a leaking water skin. As long as the break or tear is no larger than 1 foot in any dimension, you mend it, leaving no trace of the former damage. This spell can physically repair a magic item or construct, but the spell can't restore magic to such an object. So that's pretty useful, you know. I'm gonna set you right there, buddy. So that's page 259. 59 of the Player's Handbook. Also, I hope you guys like the music in the background because I'm digging it. So, for our final cantrip, we could go with Guidance, which is essentially, you know, a small buff to our fellow party members. But I think we should go with Sacred Flame, which is essentially a small damage that we can do. Something to help at the early levels. Oh, we have to say past tense. Sacred Flame, page 272. Of the PHB. So what does Sacred Flame do? Well, it's 1 action to cast. Range 60 feet. It's an evocation cantrip, by the way. Components are verbal and somatic, means, you know, it's a special word and a wave of the hands. It's instantaneous. Flame-like radiance descends on a creature that you can see within range. The target must succeed on a dexterity saving throw or take 1d8 radiant damage. The target gains no benefits from cover for this saving throw. The spell damage increases by 1d8 when you reach 5th level to 2d8, 11th level to 3d8, and at 17th level to 4d8. So when you get higher up, yeah, it can be kind of helpful. So next we have 2 first level spells. Well, that's not entirely accurate now that I've mentioned that. Because if we go back to our cleric and look at our divine spells that we get from Life Domain, which is Bless and Cure Wounds. Now here is how essentially divine spells work. Each domain, which is what the divine spells are, each domain has a list of spells, its domain spells, that you gain at the cleric's level noted in the domain description. Once you gain a domain spell, you always have it prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare each day. If you have a domain spell that doesn't appear on the cleric spell list, it is a spell, nonetheless a cleric spell for you. So essentially, Bless and Cure Wounds are 2 bonus spells that do not count against these 2 that we can have prepared. So we're just going to put a circle around the circle to mark them as domains. So Bless and Cure Wounds. And we'll get to those in just a second. So since we already have those 2 ready, we don't really need to prepare them, so we can use our 2 other spell slots for something else. Might I suggest... Oops. Yeah, that's fine. Bane, which is a very good debuff that you can put on enemies to help your allies not get hit, or to help their spells to hit better. And for the other one, we're going to use Healing Word. And why Healing Word? Because it is a broken first level spell. Now all we need to do is find them back here and put their page numbers. Oops. There it is. Bane 216. PHB. And Bless is also another one of ours. And it is page... there it is. 219. Oops. I'm getting worse at this. Wow. Next is going to be Cure Wounds, purely due to alphabetical order. There's a lot of C spells. Cure Wounds, page 230, with the PHB, and Healing Word. Healing Wounds, which is essentially a weaker Cure Wounds, because Cure Wounds does 1d8 plus your bonus. Healing Words does 1d4 plus your bonus. So it's kind of like, hey, I can cast this, I can cast Cure Wounds and then cast Healing Word. So this is page 250 of the player's handbook. And like that, we have finished most of what's important to our character. Now all is left is the background. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the front of our book, to the lovely page of contents, and we're going to find backgrounds, because I did not mark it like I was supposed to. Ah, there it is, 125. So there's a number of backgrounds that we can choose from. Like I said, they help us determine our skills. So what kind of background would be best for our lovely little dwarven cleric? Was he an acolyte, a charlatan, a criminal, and so on? Let's see. We could do Acolyte. It gives us insight and religion. And also I forgot to mention, being a cleric, we get to choose 2 from history, insight, and medicine, persuasion, and religion. So let's go with history, and since we're using the Acolyte background, we won't need to choose religion. So instead we're going to choose medicine. So with our Acolyte background now, which we're going to put right here, we get insight and religion. We also get a few equipment pieces, which is a prayer book or a prayer wheel, 5 sticks of incense, vestments, a set of common clothes, and a pouch containing 15 gold pieces. We won't really mark that down, except for the 15 gold pieces, because, well, we kind of already have all of that. So, we can also choose 2 more languages. I'm going to go with Elvish and Draconic, because it's good to have a nice round amount of tongues. Next, we have some other characteristics of being essentially, well, an acolyte. We have personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, which all go here, and they help shape your character as to how you're going to be playing the character. Some Dungeon Masters are like, oh, you have to roll for this. Others are like, you can choose this how you want. But we're going to roll, so I need to get a D8, which I can normally find right. I'm trying to find it by field. By field. As a D10. As a D4. Oh, come on. Give me a D8. Nope. There we go. So our first one, we've got essentially a 1d8 choice. A 2. So I can find common ground between fiercest enemies, empathizing with them, and always working towards peace. So, we're just going to shorthand that. Common ground to peace. Next we're going to do ideals. That's a 6. So what's 6? 6 is aspiration. I seek to prove myself worthy of my God's favor by matching my actions against his or her teachings. So, aspirations. Bond. 2. I will someday get revenge on the corrupt temple hierarchy who branded me as a heretic. Ooh. So we're going to make branded heretic revenge. And lastly, our flaw. Another 2. I put too much trust in those who wield power within my temple's hierarchy. Ooh, that definitely makes a very interesting background, considering he was branded a heretic. So too much trust in hierarchy of temple. Alright, so let's just double check on a lot of things. Our initiative bonus is a 0 because we have no dexterity modifier. Our passive perception is a 13. Next, we just need to fill these out, so that's going to be easy. Acrobatics, that's a 0. Animal handling, that's a 3. Arcana, that's a 1. Athletics, that's a -1. Deception, that is a 1. In history, that is going to be a 3. Insight, that is going to be a 5 because we're adding our proficiency bonus to those ones. Intimidation, 1. Investigation, 1. Medicine, it's going to be a +3, so that's going to be a 5 due to the proficiency bonus. Nature is a 1. Perception is a 3. Performance is a 1. Persuasion is a 1. Religion is a 3. Sleight of hand is a 0. Stealth is a 0. And survival is Excuse me. Survival is a 3. Alright. That's everything. That's everything that you need to as far as playing. Now, there is another page that you need to worry about. This page. It is your age, your height, your weight, your eyes, your skin, your hair, your character's appearance, their backstory, allies of organizations that they've made, additional features and traits, and treasure. These are very important pages, and they're right here on the back of your character sheet. Now, I can't fill all of this out for you. This is something you have to fill out as you decide how you want to play Dungeons & Dragons. Anyways, thank you for joining me for this. I hope that you found this somewhat helpful in your quest of making your own character. I'll catch you next time on the next D20 Sundays.